By the 2154th year, humanity had left the Earth in a completely catastrophic state, a consequence of overpopulation, disease and pollution.
Audio Jungle.
The elite decides to build a space station called Elysium and live without pollution and disease thanks to special capsules that can heal everything. Now only the poor live on Earth, such as the orphan Max and his best friend Freya. They spend a lot of time together and enjoy looking at books about Elysium, to the point that Max promises Fry to take her there one day. Max starts stealing in order to save money for tickets to Elysium, despite the fact that the nun in charge of the orphanage asks him to stop. Many years later in Los Angeles, Max, a former thief on probation, struggles to work an honest job in a factory. But even when he is well behaved, the officer robots stop him at the bus station to check his backpack just because of his criminal past. Max responds with a joke, causing the robots to push him to the ground and injure his arm. After the robots find nothing in his backpack and release him, Max goes to the hospital and is shocked to find Freya, whom he has not seen for a long time. While Freya takes care of his hand, they use the opportunity to catch up, and Max asks her out. Fry agrees after some hesitation. After that, Max goes to work for the Armordian company, which built Elysium and now produces robots owned by billionaire Carlyle. Max's manager tries to fire him for being late, but Max explains that Nim had an accident. He manages to keep his job, but he still gets a warning. Meanwhile, a group of rebels led by hacker Spider gives people a fake identity card and puts them in shuttles so that they try to get to Elysium and get medical help. At the station, Secretary of Defense Delacour receives a message warning her that 3 undocumented shuttles are approaching Elysium, and she rushes to her office to take action. The shuttles are ordered to return to Earth, but they do not obey, so Delacour orders the activation of Kruger, the sleeping agent she has hidden on Earth. It's against the law, but Delacour doesn't care. Kruger is armed with a rocket launcher and manages to shoot down 2 shuttles before they reach the station. The third one dodges the rocket and lands on Elysium, allowing the woman to run out and break into the house. She puts her sick daughter in a medical capsule, and the girl immediately becomes healthy, but at that moment a bunch of robot policemen appear and aggressively arrest them both to send them to Earth. Returning to Max, on the way home, he runs into his friend Hula, who asks him to help him steal some cars, but Max refuses because he does not want to go to prison again. The next day at work, Max discovers that some object has jammed the door to the radioactive room. His boss forces him to go inside to fix it, and Max is forced to comply if he doesn't want to lose his job. It is possible to remove the object quickly, but this leads to the door closing and the machine starts working again. His colleagues try to force open the door, but they lack speed, and Max writhes in pain as he receives a huge dose of radiation. When they finally manage to free him, Max is sent to the company's medical bay, and the robot informs him that he will die in 5 days, but until then he can take pills to function. Carlyle shows up after hearing that production has stopped and orders the manager to fire Max. Meanwhile, Delacour is summoned to an audience by President Potel to hold her accountable for violating the law when she used a sleeping agent and killed 46 civilians. Boloker explains that she will do everything necessary to protect her home and her family from savages, to which Potel warns her that if she does something like this again, she will be fired. After a while, Carlyle meets with Deckauer to renew contracts for the defense of the space station. Delacour wonders if Carlyle can abolish the Elysium system and put a new president in power. When Carla confirms that she can, Delacour offers a contract for 200 years, and if he puts her in power, and he agrees. At the hospital, Fry is upset to learn that her patient Matilda is not amenable to treatment and needs to be sent home. Meanwhile, Max tries to get to his house, but he feels too bad, and the fuck has to help him move. After vomiting, Max tells the fuck what happened and asks him to take him to the spider. Max wants to buy tickets to go to Elysium, and since he has no money, he offers to do whatever Spider needs. In fact, the Spider has a dangerous task that no one wanted to undertake. He created a device that can access organic information from the brain of one person and transfer it to another. The mission is for Max to find the billionaire and get all his access data to empty his bank accounts. Max agrees on the condition that Hula will also get a ticket and that Carlisle will be his target. Spider accepts these conditions and offers Max an exoskeleton suit that can make him as powerful as a robot and compensate for the weakness caused by radiation. The operation to fasten the exoskeleton with Max's bones and nervous system is long and complicated, but it ends successfully, and now Max can fight with any robot that dares to stop him. Max also makes an identification tattoo on his arm, which will make the system think that he was born in Elysium. Returning to Carlisle, he encrypts his brain information, installs a defense mechanism that will kill anyone who tries to access his mind, and destroys his computer when he finishes. He then prepares to board his shuttle to go to the station. At the same time, Max and his group appear at Carlisle's facility to capture him. Max shoots at the shuttle as it takes off, causing it to start to fail and eventually crash. In Elysium, Delore follows Carlisle for the sake of her future and discovers this attack, so she sends Kruger and a warship to protect him. The group approaches the wrecked shuttle and discovers robots ready to protect Carlisle. Max destroys one of them by shooting at him, and enters into hand-to-hand combat with the other, and defeats him by tearing off his head. They then enter the shuttle and begin downloading information from Carlisle's brain, but discovers that all the data is mixed up. At that moment, a warship appears and the group decides to flee. Suddenly Max starts to have a headache, which delays everyone and gives Kruger time to catch up and kill most of them. Max and Julio try to escape by car, but explosives hit the car and it flips over. Kruger approaches Max when he crawls out, and stabs him with a knife, and then pulls out a sword to finish him off. However, Julio stops him, trying to shoot him. His shot fails, but Kruger is still furious and kills the Hula first. Max is distracted to get a gun and try to shoot Kruger. Kruger puts up an energy shield and falls unconscious, but does not die. After crying a little, Max runs away. Meanwhile, Delacour learns that Carlisle has bled to death, and as soon as Kruger regains consciousness, she sends him after Max. Kruger and his men analyze the crashed shuttle and discover that Carlisle had a program in his head to reboot the Elysium system, and now this information is in Max, so they send droids to help with the search. To make matters worse, Delacour declares Los Angeles a useless zone, and Spider discovers that all signals in the city are jammed. In the evening, Frake prepares to take Matilda home, and as soon as she goes outside, she discovers Max, who asks her to help with a knife wound. Fry wants to take him to the hospital, but Max explains that he is wanted, so a public place is a ban. The next morning, Max wakes up at Frey's house with a stitched wound. He finds out that Matilda is Frey's daughter, and she suffers from leukemia, so she doesn't have long left. Fry notices Max's identification tattoo and asks for help in getting Matilda to Elysium, but Max explains that they will be killed, and if they even try. Then Max leaves the building, but a robot finds him. He starts running away and tries to throw some objects at him, but he manages to disable him. However, all this was transferred to Kruger, who immediately flies to the place. He breaks into Frey's apartment and arrests her and Matilda for keeping a criminal. Max returns to Spider's hideout and demands his ticket to Elysium. Spider explains that he can't send shuttles with jammed signals, but he also notes that Max must have something very important on his mind for the government to activate jamming. He looks through the data and discovers an Elysium reboot program that they could use to have a huge impact on society. However, Max points out that he has only a few hours left to live, so he uses the data as a bribe in exchange for a ticket. Max then returns to the robot that was chasing him to urge Kruger to come after him. Kruger appears and Max threatens to detonate a grenade if someone tries to do something that will kill him, which means important data. Kruger agrees to take him to Elysium, and when Max enters the shuttle, he discovers that Fry and Matilda are also there. Kruger informs Delacour that he has Max, and Delacour turns off the interference so they can deliver him. The Spider immediately restores the operation of its systems, and begins to monitor Max through his exoskeleton. As soon as they notice that he is flying to Elysium, the rebels take out their weapons and board their shuttles. After a while, Kruger's shuttle is almost on Elysium. Max tries to apologize to Fry for dragging her into this, but at that moment Kruger and his companions attack Max, and as a result of the fight, the pilot loses control of the ship. Max accidentally drops a grenade and it explodes, killing Kruger's face and disabling the ship's engine. The shuttle crashes in the suburbs, and surveillance cameras alert Delacour, who sends her men to arrest everyone on the ship. When Max regains consciousness and discovers that Fry is stuck in her chair, he uses his new power to help her. Kruger and his companion also come to their senses, and begin to fight with Max. Fry takes the chance to grab Matilda and take her to the house to put her in a medical capsule, but the machine has been changed and now they don't work unless you have a citizen's ID. At this moment, the guards arrive and grab Max and Freya. When Max wakes up after a while, he finds Doker and a group of technicians checking Carlisle's data. The information is fine, but Max will die if they try to extract it. Dokuru doesn't care, and she tells them to do it anyway. While the rebels stay in Elysium and go in search of Max, Kruger's men lock up Freya and Matilda. Kruger himself is barely alive, so he is subjected to a procedure that heals him and makes him an exoskeleton like Max's. A few minutes later, Max manages to free himself and hit the technicians to force them to confess to Frey's whereabouts. He also takes their access cards. Delacour appears and furiously scolds Kruger for not doing the job properly, but Kruger in response stabs her and locks her with Fry. While Fry tries to treat Delacour's wound, Kruger orders his men to get rid of all the politicians in the building while he searches for Max. People rush into battle and kill all the politicians they can find using grenades. When Max finds the control room, it's a complete mess. The monitors show that Fry and Matilda are in the building, and the rebels are getting closer. Using a communicator, Max contacts Spider and asks him if the program in his head can make everyone a citizen. Spider confirms that he can, and together they develop a plan. After that, Max goes in search of Fry and discovers Kruger's thug in the room. A fierce fight ensues, and Max takes over, managing to beat the Kruger man to a pulp. The second bandit also appears and shoots Max, but Max easily pulls out a heavy pistol and shoots back. After that, Max takes the girls to the elevator and tells them to find a healing capsule. Freya draws attention to the lack of documents, but Max promises that he will take care of it, and sends them away. At this moment, Max hears Kruger's screams nearby, which means that he is still alive. The door opens and Max prepares for battle, but only Spider and his group are there. One of the people goes to help Freya, and Max and the rebels go to the Elysium system room, where they are found by Kruger, who begins to kill everyone who falls into his hands. Max and Spider run away and try to close the door behind them, but Kruger blocks them. Suddenly Max's head starts to hurt again, which gives Kruger the opportunity to break through and attack. Max fights back, and Spider tries to help, causing Kruger to drop the sword from the platform. Kruger responds by stabbing Spider in the arm, and then attacks Max again. While they continue to fight, Spider takes the knife out of his hand and rushes to break open the door to the system compartment. Kruger overpowers Max and stabs him, teasing him for disappointing the child, which enrages Max and he jumps on Kruger to tear off his exoskeleton. Without the support of the machine, Kruger is now unable to defend against the power of the robot Max and thinks of using a grenade to destroy them both. Max reacts quickly and frees himself from Kruger's grip, and then throws him off the platform. At this moment, the Spider opens the door, and as soon as he and Max are inside, the Spider locks it again to leave the guards outside. While Fry finds the capsule and puts Matilda inside, Max connects his brain to the Elysium system. The Spider performs all the necessary programming steps, then gives Max a remote control to reboot, explaining that Max will not survive and if he decides to press the button. Max uses the computer he is connected to contact Fry, apologizing for not being able to be with her, but also pointing out that he kept his promise made as a child and brought her to Elysium. Max begins to recall all his happy childhood memories with Fry while pressing the button. While Potel stays with the guards to break down the door and arrest the Spider, the system restarts, leaving the ship without power for a few seconds. When it is activated again, the system adds new citizens to the database. The healing capsule reads Matilda as a legitimate patient and begins to treat her, and the robots refuse to arrest the Spider because the arrest of citizens of Elysium is prohibited by law. Now that every inhabitant of Earth is also considered a citizen of Elysium, the system detects all the poor people in need of medical care and sends shuttles to them. While all the slum dwellers are running to the ships to meet their salvation, Fry goes outside and looks at the Earth and the sky, thinking about all the wonderful memories that Max left her.